Today is May 1st, 2016. Sitting in my main study. It is Sunday. It's a rainy, dreary day here by Lake Michigan. I was going to put away my April 16, 2016 diary last night, but I didn't get around to it. But what I did is I was looking at videos on BookTube, and people were doing their April 2016 wrap-up. And I suppose what a wrap-up is what you have read throughout the month of April. And so I made a list of what I read. I went through my diary. And these are the main things I read. I read other things, but these are the main things I read. I read, basically I've been reading the books on my desk. I read, well, I did take some books downstairs the other day. My desk was getting too crowded. And I took this book down into the library the other day, Introducing Biblical Hermeneutics, a Comprehensive Framework for Hearing God in Scripture by Greg G. Baramilafiu. I read that last month, and I got to a point where I didn't want to read it anymore, so I put it downstairs. And then I start reading the Apostle Paul and the Christian Life, Ethical and Missional Implications of the New Perspective, edited by Scott McKnight and Joseph B. Monaco. I put that downstairs too. I read most of that. Most of these books that I'm listing are essays by different writers, and I got to a point in that book on the Apostle Paul and the Christian Life that I got tired of it, and I put that down in my library. And then I finished last month the novel The Good Apprentice by Iris Murdoch. I talked about that in one of my BookTube reviews. I'm still reading Gloria. I'm almost done. I'm still got maybe 100 pages left in Gloria. A novel by Kenneth Millard. I'm still reading that. I'm still reading The Life of Iris Murdoch, A Life by Peter J. Conrad. I read that last month, and I still read it. And then I read Progressive Confidentialism last month, Charting a Course Between Dispensational and Covenant Theologies. Editors Stephen J. Walham and Brent E. Parker. Once again, these are essays, and I tend to read Christian books not to finish the whole book, but in the mornings, as I've said, I read these books into the afternoon hours, and I read them just to help me focus on the Bible and to meditate upon divine truth, and I read them until I get tired of them, and then I read something else. I have a huge Christian library. And then I read The Presence of God, Its Place in Storyline of Scripture and the Story of God's Story of Our Lives by J. Ryan Lister. I read that in April and will continue to read it. I'm halfway through it. And then I read last month, I read Spain in Our Hearts, Americans in the Spanish Civil War, 1936 to 1939 by Adam Hartschild. I'm still reading that. I really haven't got much into it, but I'm still reading that. And then I'm still reading Making All Things New, Inaugurate Eschatology for the Life of the Church by Benjamin L. Glad and Matthew S. Harneman. I read that in the month of April, and we'll read it during the month of May. I also read last month, I'm still reading Why Be Happy When You Can Be Normal, a memoir by Jeanette Winterson. Still reading that. I'm reading that. I read this in April, and we'll read it in May. And then I read in April Paris Vagabond. I'm almost done with this, by Jean-Paul Kleibert. Still reading that, and we'll read this in May. And then I read in April Living in Paper, Letters Iris Murdoch, 1934 to 1995. I read that in April, and will continue to read it in May. And then I read in April in Existentialist Cafe, Freedom Being and Apricot Cocktails by Sarah Bakewell. I read this in April, throughout April, and will continue to read it throughout May. And then I read Jesus Have I Loved, but Paul, A Narrative Approach to Problem Appalling Christianity by J.R. Daniel Kirk. I read that in April, and we'll read it during May. And then I read in April The Fourfold Gospel, a theological reading of the New Testament Portraits of Jesus by Francis Watson. And then I read in April The Other Paris by Luc Sente. I'm really enjoying this, and I read this last night along with Paris Vagabond, and we'll continue to read it now throughout May. And then I was reading a treatise on true theology with the life of Franciscus Junus. He lived during the 17th century. I'm halfway through this. We'll continue reading it throughout May. So these are the things I read in April of 2016. And I will continue to read them throughout May. Oh, I also started reading this in the end of April, Open City, a novel by Teju Cole. I've been reading this. Probably give a book review of this when I finish it in May. I wanted to mention that I picked up a book this morning. I was down this morning. We took our granddaughter, Josie Joy, downtown for breakfast. We stopped at a bookstore downtown, Rita's World, and I picked up a new book, the novel, a biography by Michael Schmidt. This is a new book. Just got it this morning. I do have Michael Schmidt's Lives of the Poets. I've had this for a number of years. I think it came out in 1998. I highly recommend this. In this stunning volume of epic breadth, Michael Schmidt connects the lives and works of over 300 English language poets of the last 700 years, spanning distant shores from Scotland to Australia to the Caribbean, all sharing the English language. Lives of the Poets traverses the landscapes of biography, form, cultural pressures, and important historical moments to reveal how each poet has transformed a common language of poetry into the rustic rhythms and elegiac ballads and love sonnets and experimental postmodern verse that made up our lyrical canon. And this is his new book, the novel, a biography. The 700 year of the novel in English defies straightforward telling, geographically and culturally boundless, with contributions from Great Britain, Ireland, America, Canada, Australia, India, the Caribbean, the Southern Africa, influenced by great novelists working in other languages and encompassing a range of genders. The story of the novel in English unfolds like a richly veiled landscape that invites exploration than a linear journey. In the novel, a biography, Schmidt does full justice to its complexity. Like his hero, Maddox Ford, in The March of Literature, Schmidt chooses as his traveling companions not critics or theorists, but artists, practitioners, men and women who feel hot love for the books they admire and fulminate against those they dislike. It is their insight Schmidt cares about, quoting from the letters, diaries, reviews, and essays of novelists and drawing on their biographies. Schmidt invites us into creative dialogues between authors, between books, and suggests how these dialogues have shaped the development of the novel in English. So I got this morning, and I'll get into this in May. So yeah, that's what I read in April and what I will continue to read throughout May 2016, Lord willing. I tend to read books. It takes me a couple of months to read through things. I'm sure I'll finish The Open City. The other books I'm not sure of. I will finish Gloria. I want to get back into this book, Spain in Our Hearts. I do want to get back into The Existentialist Cafe. And I will finish Paris Vagabond. I'm really enjoying this book. And I should do a book review on this and just give you why I like this book. And I'm really enjoying this book, The Other Paris by Luc Sante. And I have, these books on my desk too. This commentary on Romans by Richard N. Longenecker. And I have this commentary, the Reformation commentary series on 1st and 2nd Samuel, 1st and 2nd Kings, and 1st and 2nd Chronicles, edited by Derek Cooper, Martin J. Longman. I don't know when I'm going to get into this, but I kept it on my desk. I took a lot of books downstairs the other day, but I kept these on my desk. And maybe I'll look at them. The Lord leads. So that's my April wrap-up. And until next time, bye.